Yeah, there's no backing out now. Our first episode of, we're going to call it book club, I guess. We started a book club and we're going to do a podcast on the book. And the book, Amy, what was the book this month?
It was Atomic
All right.
Habits.
Holy cow, you've got a lot of little tabs in there.
I mean, before I was an agent, I was an English major,
Yes.
and I have a master's in reading. So this is like my
All
jam.
right. Is that also color coded? Did the colors make a difference, or was that just
No, it's just the sticky notes that I
okay?
have the.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't enjoy reading. Yeah, it's a struggle for me, but I enjoy the message when I actually do it. And Miss Michelle, I know you enjoy reading.
I do like reading.
All right,
I'm a big reader, just like Amy is a big reader. We like to read.
sweet.
Yeah, I know you listen to the audiobook, so I had the pleasure of listening to the audio of this, and I also had the pleasure of reading it. Personally, for me, it just when I read a book and then when I hear the book, it's kind of nice to put the two together. It's like an extra reinforcement, and it kind of drills it in a little bit more. So I kind of like this little routine we have going on.
All right,
The best of both worlds, I guess.
nice. Well, very good.
Did did James Clear, did he read the audio version of the book? Is it his voice that's reading
Oh,
it?
I don't know.
I don't recall. I think it is actually. I think it is. I'll have to
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look at that and get back to you. Kind of the purpose of this was hopefully to help out anybody who obviously listens to this. We're trying to do this in the real estate world and kind of a self-help and things of that nature. And personally for me, I feel like we do a lot of reading, but we do very little implementation. We read a lot of books per year, and we try to take nuggets out of it and make changes and things like that. And so, part of this podcast, I was hoping that we could actually create some change and things like that. So we're not just going to discuss the book, but we're also going to talk about what we're going to do different. And for those of you that are out there that happen to see this in the future, if this is something that you'd like to be a part of, please reach out to us and let us know. We're happy to have you join us. And our goal is I'm not sure what our goal is yet, to how many books we're planning on reading, but our goal is to read the book, talk about the book, and also have follow-up episodes about our implementation and what we discovered. So I'm excited about this.
Me too.
Sweet.
You excited, Amy?
I am excited. Yes. I had a hard time, honestly, thinking about how I would implement any of these things in real estate. And there's a bunch of supplemental material. I don't know if you access any of that. And it's specifically Atomic Habits for Business. So I was like, I can't wait to hear what Nestor and Michelle have to say.
So I had one big takeaway from it, which I don't want to start with that, but I had one big takeaway from the book that I found it easy to find things that were that I was going to be able to implement within the book. So I was excited about it. I actually got too much information out of it and had to say, oh, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that, because it was just too much for me. But first of all, let's talk about kind of what the book was about. Who would like to start? What was your thought process, or what did you get out of it, if you wanted to sum up the book in just a few sentences, what it was actually about?
I feel like such the student right now.
So, Amy, we're not being graded, although if you want to give us a grade down in the comments below, please feel free.
Practice makes perfect, maybe. Practice makes perfect in the right environment with the correct conditions that it is up to you to set for yourself is kind of what I feel like is the theme of the book.
Okay. Practice makes perfect. So you're going back to that example that he had given about the photographer, the class of the photographer, where half the students did this and half the students did it this way, and the ones that put in more practice actually there were several
Did a better
examples
job.
of it. The chess players as well.
I forgot about that, but you just reminded me because I was telling Adam about that, about the one group had to make one perfect picture to get graded on, and then the other ones it was on quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it goes along with what our friend Katie Lance says all the time, which is done is better than perfect.
Exactly. So,
Does go along with that.
Michelle, if you were to sum up the book, what would you? And everybody, please. She's getting over laryngitis, so we're forcing her to try to force her voice out. So
Sorry, but it's the way it is. It's a little bit more low than normal. So I would say my summary of the book. Let's see. I definitely feel that the environment had a lot to do with it, but at the same time, I think it's really my biggest takeaway is make it easy and keep it simple. And I think that those are the things that personally, when I'm making a habit, I get hung up with. Is I try to overcomplicate things and get into the minutia of doing it and why I need to do it, and then I get frustrated because it just becomes too overwhelming. I really enjoyed the fact that he said just do one small thing that makes sense, that's very clear and very easy so that you can't mess up. And I thought, man, that's amazing. That's just really amazing to think about that. Gosh, the changes. I mean, he used the words. Goodness, I have it in here on my notes. I'm trying to find it. It says, I will, whatever that behavior is, at this time and at this location. And essentially that makes it super easy that, hey, I'm going to, new behavior, for instance, would be I'm going to write my affirmations as soon as I get up, with right after I have my first sip of coffee at the kitchen table. And then I just know I'm going to do that, and it makes it super easy for me to do, right? Because I just have to get up, get my coffee, take my sip, sit at the table, and then I'm ready to go, right? That's an easy way to make a habit. And I thought, gosh, that's super easy to just do that. So there was a lot of little things that I've been playing with since we decided we were going to do these habits, or read this book, and I started to play with it as to what could I do to change, and it's been fun. I'm really excited about this.
nice. And my general what I got out of the book was small habits. Is keep it small, keep it simple, and like Michelle, the point that you brought up, one of the other items that he had added onto that is when you first get started, put a clock on it and make it something that is easy, doing it for just 1 minute or doing it just for 2 minutes. And even if it's something, you're not a runner, you decide you're going to go run, well, now your job is really to run for 1 minute, stop, and that's it. Start to create the habit, and then once the habit is created, it opens up the rest of the pathway for the different things for that habit to actually evolve. But
Yeah, he had that law of least effort, and that's where that falls into. One of the other aha moments for me, sorry,
that's
not
okay.
to, was the lady in the book. The example that was given was she's a dancer, whatever, and every morning she got her clothes on, and that she got in the cab and then went to the gym in order to do her workout. Her win was going in the cab.
Correct.
We have to really identify that it's not the going to the gym, it's the behavior that's going to trigger you to actually complete the action that you need to do. And I thought that was like amazing too. I'm like, it's the cab. Never really thought about that.
Well,
It's you put your clothes on. Yeah. That really makes you want to get out and go to the gym because you put your clothes on, right?
It broke that down, and I think to kind of expand on that, and I feel like what the author was talking about is the process when he broke it up into a few different things, what the goal is, how's the process, and what the belief is, and really where we start to get into the habit. And, for the other example that he was talking about, when the win actually happens, if you're going to go out and run, if the win actually happens, if you get dressed and put on the running shoes, the rest will probably follow. Because the real habit is not going out there and creating running every single day as a habit. The real habit was putting on your clothes, or at least setting that whole thing up. Maybe your clothes are out and already set up before, and that's the habit you created, or you whatever it is to get you to get dressed and get ready to go out there to go to the gym. And for that one lady, it was get in the cab. If she could get in the cab, the rest of it was going to happen. And so she couldn't focus on, it wasn't her job to focus on how do I work out every single week and go to the gym. It was how do I get myself into that cab every single day, and if I can do that, then the rest will actually follow.
He almost makes it impossible for you to fail, because he says that so many people say, like, well, I want to run a marathon, and it's like, slow your roll, you don't even own your running shoes yet. And it's like, before you're even thinking about how you're going to run the 26 miles, maybe say, for 10 days straight, I'm just going to lace up my running shoes. Like, don't even think about running it. But so many of us just want to be like, I want to run the mile, and then you go out and you attempt to do like 3 miles your first day. Oh, that's too hard. I'm not going to do the marathon. So it's like he almost makes it like you can't fail, because he's telling you just break it down and like just for 1 week, just lace up your running shoes. Then, for the next week, lace up your running shoes and step outside the door and, just take a walk up the block or so. I forget exactly how he broke it down, but it's like there's really no excuse. He lays it out for you exactly how to hit any goal that you would want to.
Amy, curious, I know Michelle had mentioned that she started a couple small habits. Did you start any small habits?
It's funny because the one thing that resonated most with me, I forget, Michelle, you said that started with you, because did you say that the one thing that resonated with you, that for you the hardest part is just getting started sometimes? Mm-hmm. Is that when you initially started? My thing is I'm like the all or nothing type person that he mentioned. So I have it somewhere here. He says it like you can't let the one, like if you have one, like, I like to do all those challenges and stuff like that, or I like to like pick a race and I'm going to run for a race, I'm going to run a race. And if I have like one day where I screw up and I don't miss everything on the challenge, I'm like, oh no, I have to start all over again type thing. So for me, I have to figure out ways to, I feel like I habitize a lot of things in my life, and it's almost like I have to like pull back from that, because then it's like, not that I set myself up for failure, but like I'll put too much on myself. So it's almost like I have to pull back and tone it down a little bit and not have that all or nothing thinking. I know I have it somewhere in these notes exactly where he says it, but I'll find it when we've moved on.
It's all good. So it was funny because I had created a small habit. I tried the 2-minute process, and silly as it sounds, my whole thing was I was walking in the backyard when I had gotten to that part of the book, and he was talking about that, and I happened to be in the backyard, and I was looking at the lawn, and I was upset with the number of weeds that were coming through the grass. And I said, you know what? For 2 minutes every single day, I'm just going to pull weeds out of the grass. And this morning, I was so excited because this morning I went outside and I was struggling to find weeds that were in there because my 2 minutes a day, I guess I actually got to see the fruits of my labor, and it was not something that was very difficult. But when I went out there today, I was all like, oh, very nice. They're almost all gone. So I don't know, it made me happy. So we'll keep pushing forward with that. But
I love that you looked at that and said, oh, nice, look at the fruit of my labors, I have no weeds. I would have been like, I'm such a failure because I don't have any weeds to pick for today, and I need to do 2 minutes of picking weeds. Like, it's annoying to be to be like that. And I love the way that you think about it.
I got excited. I said, okay, now I have these bare spots. I'm going to have to get them, get grass growing in there, and, and we're going to keep with the 2 minutes, and we'll see what we get.
That's the perfect way to think about it. So
I want to ask, because for me, I did have an aha moment in the book that felt like, boom, this is the game changer for me, and I'm curious if anybody else had that aha moment. And Amy, anything in the book that you said, boom, this is okay, I get it, and I can see how this will make a difference.
Let me see. I had 5.
Okay.
But one big one.
So please share. You're going to start with the biggest one first?
I want to hear all 5.
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to? Well, I'll save the biggest one for last. So the first one was a handful of problems arise when you spend too much time thinking about your goals and not enough time designing your systems.
Mhm.
Which that was kind of an aha for me too, because I think maybe like I do get so focused on the goal that I miss the point that it's, you know, the system. So that was a good one for me, and I have a bunch of notes that I took on that I'll try to implement.
And so that one goes back a little bit to what Michelle was talking about earlier today, or earlier, about the whole planning and adding that time, adding a time and a location helps create that plan to actually follow through with it.
Right. And he said a lot of interesting things with that too, like things I'd never thought about before. Like, you know, people go to the Olympics, and whether you win the gold medal or you never stand on the gold medal stand, they all had the same goal of making it to the Olympics. And so he said every Olympian wants the gold medal. So if you're successful, so if unsuccessful and successful people share the same goals, then the goal cannot be what differentiates the winners from the losers.
Exactly.
It's their systems, not the goals. So I was like, oh, that's a good one.
I think
and
I
then
wrote that one down too, Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that the goal is only a momentary change. So what you really need to change isn't the results, it's how you go about achieving it. There was a lot of good stuff in that section.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that goals can restrict your happiness, because you always are thinking, I'll be happy when I get to this goal, and that usually doesn't happen. And then the other ones were more towards the end of the book. The first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is a spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. So I was like, that's a good way for me to think about it. That's what I was looking for before, about like not a failure if I'm doing you know, trying to do a challenge or training for a race or something, and something happens and I miss that one day. That's fine. You can move past that one day. I think he says in the book, eat a whole pizza, that's fine, but make sure you go back to your healthy eating habits, you know, from moving forward. You miss one workout, that's fine. Get right back to it. So same thing with our job, you know, with real estate. You have one day that, you know, in our job, things don't always go according to plan. So you have one day that didn't go the way you wanted to, and you didn't hit all of your marketing goals or whatever. It's fine. You can go back to them the next day.
That's a really valid point, because in our industry, so often we get caught up and we can spiral down really, really quickly where something's not going right, and all of a sudden we can let that manifest and grow legs and go into every aspect of our business. And next thing you know, a month has passed and it's like, oh my, the world has come to an end with regard to real estate, and I'm changing my career.
Are you in our house? I threatened to quit like 3 times. Then the other ones were the greatest threat to success is not failure but boredom.
Yeah.
I liked that one, was a good one. As soon as we experience the slightest dip in motivation, we begin seeking a new strategy, even if the old one was still working. I can't tell you how many times I rewrite, we're going to try this new marketing plan. We're going to scrap this Instagram strategy and do this. We're going to stop doing those postcards and do this. And just yesterday, listen to Nestor and Michelle's open house strategy that we're now implementing.
That open house strategy has been one that has been in the making and modified and altered and formulated and developed over years and years of doing those
trial
things.
and error.
You're so right. I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. I know Michelle is guilty of it as well, of taking things and not really giving it the proper amount of time to figure out, hey, are the results going to work on this, and are we doing the right thing? We pivot and change too quickly before we've really had an opportunity to let what we're doing work.
Right. Or the opposite. You've been doing it for so long and you change it, but maybe you shouldn't, because it actually is, you know, you've been doing it for a long time for a reason. It's working. So why would you change it? This one kind of goes along with that one. Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way. Professionals know what is important to them and work toward it with purpose. Amateurs get pulled off course by the urgencies of life. That was another one. And then the last one, which is funny, I highlighted it. It's in pink as like, this was my aha, but then I didn't write anything underneath. The only way to become excellent is to be endlessly fascinated by doing the same thing over and over. You have to fall in love with boredom. So
that was kind of the chess example where they were so in love with it that the younger daughter was so in love with it, and she was, sneaking away into the bathroom late at night to practice, and it she was so that brought her so much joy that a lot of people would think, oh, you're pushing your kids too hard or this and that, but that it was a calling for her. That's what she wanted to do it because that was part of her life. And I lost my thought. The one that you brought up prior to that.
About professionals sticking to the schedule, amateurs get sidetracked with
yes,
the
thank you.
urgent.
So often I feel like in our business that we think that this kind of goes to the 7 habits of highly effective people and what we think is important, urgent and important versus important and not urgent and things of that nature.
The 4 quadrants or whatever that was.
And so often
Yeah.
we make something that is not urgent. And
Yeah.
I always wonder, are we doing it to take away, because subconsciously I don't feel like dealing with this or whatever the case may be, or is it that it's just become part of our habit that the telephone rings, there's a need to pick it up just because it's ringing,
Yeah.
and that's not always the case.
He talked about that in the book, Nestor. He said we have a cue, we have a craving, we have a response, and we have a reward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what creates that habit, right? And so, as you just said, life takes you off course of what you're supposed to be doing. And it's easy to do that because it's a response and it's a reward. Oh, I'm going to get immediate satisfaction if I put this fire out versus just keeping doing what you're doing and then coming back to it when you need to. He used that example with the telephone, with social media, he gave that example of it's that dopamine hit. And when we're doing our everyday, day-to-day life, and especially with real estate, someone will call and say, oh, I need this, and you're right in the middle of doing something for somebody else, right? And you stop everything just to handle that. Well, you don't need to, because you need to just finish what you're doing, and then you can move on to the next, because you need to be able to give your attention to the task at hand. And I think that's part of what he was saying in the very beginning of the book was you need to find the who you need to be to change. Who are you?
Right.
Who is it that you want to be? What is it that you want to accomplish? You have to really feel it in there in order to make that conscious change. And the cool thing about this book too, I thought, is it gave you strategy on how to unpack your bad habits.
Yep.
And, like if you watch too much TV, if you want to go to the extreme, you could take the TV out, unplug it every night and put it in the closet or do something like that to just unpack that habit of, is it really that important? And I think those are skills that we need to use in real estate or any career or just in life is just knowing that how important is it and how not important it is. And it's not goal, it's just a habit. It just makes it easy. It goes back to the thing that I loved about this was it's just life is so simple. We overcomplicate everything, and we are always looking to change things really quickly when we don't really need to.
This doesn't make it easier.
It doesn't. So, Michelle, a couple of things. I thanks for bringing up the dopamine, and for that, really, that was one of the aha moments that I had because he was talking about it's not the activity of actually doing it. It's the just before that, just the fact that it's about to happen is really where the dopamine hit comes in, and that's where we get most excited. It's not so much in actually doing the activity. It's just before that and having that better understanding. But I also, your aha moment in this, I don't know if that was the actual aha moment that you had or if your biggest aha moment in the book.
My biggest aha, well, besides I think was like I said, just the simplicity, just keep everything simple. But one of the quotes that I really, really loved was about motivation. Trying to pump up your motivation to stick with a hard habit is like trying to force water through a bent hose. I loved that.
Okay.
I was like, that makes so much sense because motivation is just a emotion. That's all it is. it's the habits and the things. So motivation is what gets you going in the beginning. Like, it's exciting. I want to do this. I want to run that marathon. I want to, do whatever. But like Amy said, but I don't have my shoes yet, and I haven't, bought them, and I need to lace them up and find the right thing and get an outfit and, all these things that go with it. So it's like your motivation wanes. So there's your bent hose. You have all this excitement for something, but your hose is bent because there's no plan. What I loved is that motivation has nothing to do with it. It's just the system that you put in place, and it has to, like I said, just be so simple, so dumb it way down so that you can actually do it every day.
Right.
I think what my personal struggle is I try to create too many systems, and I want this, and I want to do this, and I want to do Monday. Like, Amy, you're so good at social media. You have a plan, and I see that you're posting the same things every week, and I've mentioned this to you 1,000 times. I love that, and I wish that I could do that. And honestly, I probably could, but I'm too damn lazy, and I don't do it, right? And it's because I think I just haven't put a system in place that makes sense to me, right, to make that happen so that I'll actually follow through and do the plan. So it was really more my aha moment, Nestor, sorry, to circle back, besides motivation and keeping it easy, it was really, it all ends up being what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. That's it.
Okay. So if you wanted to start working on those little habits about creating social media the way that you want it,
You walked right into that.
yeah, you may want to re-listen to this podcast after and take some of the advice, break it up into little chunks, and see where it goes. But
Right, do the 2 minutes,
You-
2 minutes
you-
a day, 2 minutes a
just
day.
a thought. So,
But I think it does have something to do with. I think it would be if you can break it down into smaller systems, that certainly helps. But to even get to that point, you have to be motivated enough to even create the system or to figure out what the small thing is. And I think maybe, like with the social media, for instance, maybe you're like, oh, I don't know what I would get out of it. Like, so what's motivating me to do it, type of thing. Like, this is going to sound weird, but like for me, I mean, like, I'm the marketer and Adam does all the transaction stuff. And for me, I just love organizing things and creating things and so that's very intrinsically motivating for me. And this is going to sound terrible, but like, if somebody reaches out and says, we want to work with you, or I want to see that house, or I want you to list, that's like icing on the cake to me. But like, the actual doing it is that's what I love to do. So that's like intrinsically motivating. Getting somebody to reach out would be like an extrinsic reward that is certainly motivating too. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're here. But that's just like the part of the business that I just love to do, and that goes along with what I did in my past, like lesson planning and creating and all that stuff. Like, that's just what I like to do. But then if you said to me to like how, Adam does all the paperwork and stuff, I would have to, I could be doing all the transaction and all of that stuff too, but I'm not motivated to do it. He's listening from the other room right now, probably. Like.
So it's interesting. My aha moment was really about the motivation, and that motivation is not the thing that changes or gets us to change our habits. And it was really more environment that too often we focus on motivation, and the problem with motivation is it tends not to last long, especially in things that, when it's things that we're trying to change, and it's not necessarily something that we're quote unquote motivated to do. And that if we really want to make that change, the easiest way to do it is change the environment. And and it could sound weird, because changing the environment, for most people, when you hear that, you're thinking, well, okay, so I changed the location where I'm doing something from this place to this place. But no, it's really changing the environment around and creating the habit that you want to create. If I want to lose weight and go on a diet, and I go to the store and I make the wrong purchases and I bring that home in front of me, and I'm gonna rely on motivation to not eat those things that I shouldn't have bought. They're in front of me or they're there. Maybe the kids want them, whatever the case may be, so they're there, and I'm going to rely on motivation to not eat those on a daily basis. It's not going to work. It'll work short term, but over the long term, I'm going to fail. Whereas if I adjust that environment and those things are just not present, then it becomes a lot easier to develop the habit to start getting into those things. And so, Michelle's example, I think the real question is how do I create that process or that plan to, if social media, I'm trying to make a change in social media and doing this more and things of that nature, not necessarily how do I become more motivated, but how do I create and change my environment that doing these activities are easier, and the things that make me not do them, how do I make those more difficult in my life by changing that environment as well? And if I'm able to do those two things, how do I change my environment for making the things that I don't want to do harder while I change the environment for the things that I do want to do and make those easier? If I do those two things, and all of a sudden naturally my habits start to run into the right direction. And that was really the aha moment for me in the book of focus on the environment and making those changes, and the rest will naturally start to go in play.
I think that Amy also hit the head to circle back on what you said, Nestor, is I agree. Your environment is a huge part, because if the people around you aren't doing the things that you need to do, it's easier not to do that. I mean, the herd mentality, right, is what other people are doing, you're going to just follow along. It's just human nature. So you need to surround yourself with people that are doing the things so that you're motivated or you're more inspired to do it. But I think to circle back is Amy hit the nail on the head. You have to want to do it.
Right.
And you have, she just used the words, I get joy, right? I get joy by doing these things. I like planning out the social media. I like posting these social media posts. I like doing those things. Whereas if Adam were to say, I'm going to do all the social media and you do all the paperwork, she'd be like, I feel uninspired to do these things, right? You would do them, but you wouldn't like it.
I want to say unqualified too, because I'm calling it paperwork. I mean, that's the bulk of what we do. He's the one that's keeping the transactions together. So I like to think I'm pulling the people in and then handing it off, and he does. I'm calling it paperwork. What the guy? That's horrible. He's doing the actual, keeping it together. He's the one with all the knowledge and everything of how the actual real estate and the lending and all that works. So trust me, you don't want me to. Of the two of us, that's not my, so. But at the same time, that's the stuff that he likes. He, I say it all the time, I'm the word nerd, he's the numbers guy. It's I see numbers and I recoil. It's just, they scare me or whatever the case is, and it's just naturally not something that and that's a whole other thing. I feel like I'm not good at it, or this and that. And that's the other thing too, I think, that with habits is if you're good at them, it's easier to start them or easier to keep them going. And that's another thing that can mess with your head too when it comes to habits. But I didn't mean to steer you off course. No. I just thought I don't want it to be like Adam does the paperwork.
No, I didn't think that. It's a partnership. We get it. We're the same.
So
partnership.
I have a question. Amy, was this the first time you read this book?
Yes.
Okay. And my follow-up question, because you do like to read a lot, and I know that when we talked about putting this podcast together and doing this, that one of the struggles that we had talked about, that we read a lot of books, but implementation, because that was going to be part of our follow-up of how we were going to implement and reporting on that and things of that nature. And you had brought up implementation is a struggle that you were having. And here's aha moment that's existing. Because we decided to put this book club together, and we started, because I've read this book actually, or listened to this book several times, but never really took action on it. And in this particular case, I started to take action on the things that I was doing. And I feel like part of that was because we created this environment. I knew that, today we were going to be recording this and we were going to be talking about it. And I knew I was going to be among other people that had decided to jump on board with this. And in essence, I did change that environment, and it did start to create small habits for me that I didn't create the other times that I had looked at this book. So I guess the proof is in the pudding. Is what I'm trying to say. But anyway,
Well, accountability. So you have accountability now, which he also mentions doesn't he say about getting accountability partners?
But
Yep.
but I guess I also look at the accountability. I mean, I could have very easily read this book, and our goal in the podcast was to talk about it. So I very easily could have finished the task, not done anything. But what I found was unique this time was I really did start to implement things. So the television example that resonated with me as well, and I made an effort to eliminate that for a while as well. And those were also part of the things that were going on. So there was several little habits that got changed over the course of the last couple of weeks while we were doing this. So it was exciting.
I will say, so I did in the fall, I did that 75 medium. I don't know if you remember I had the sticky notes on the mirror. So I'm doing like a smaller challenge now. We're getting ready to go away at the end of July. We do like an annual summer road trip. And it's funny, I have my sticky notes, and I have the little sticky note on the bottom that has like the little things I'm working on each day. And it's funny because the other night I didn't do one of the things on the sticky note. That, so at the end of the night, I looked at and like, yep, I did that. And then I pulled the sticky note off. I thought, God, I feel so good. I finished it. And I was just like, I didn't get to do one thing. And then I was like, in my head, I'm like, it's just a small thing. Don't worry about it. And then in my head, I'm like, but no, that's part of the challenge. Like, you're not really, and I'm like having this. And I was just like, nope, I'm not going to let it derail me. And I pulled the the sticky note up. And then yesterday, I told you what happened yesterday. So again, and now I'm like, well, great. This is 2 days in a row now that I'm not doing the challenge. The first day was basically like I forgot to do one of the things. Yesterday, we had a monkey wrench thrown in the day that I just got home a lot later than I thought, didn't get to do everything. So in a way, I'm like, I'm almost trying to get out of a habit, I guess, of just like not just ripping everything down and saying I'm throwing it all away. I'm just kind of told myself like I'll do everything, today, and I'll get back on the horse and keep going. And just, I guess the new habit is I'm trying to learn how to show myself grace or give myself grace or whatever the expression is, which it's not really a habit, but it's definitely something that I think I need to work on.
Well, it is a habit if it's going to be something that's going to change. So you are creating something new. So I would call it a habit.
Let's just hope it doesn't go too far.
I would encourage you to reevaluate that if you continue to miss it.
Oh, yeah.
If it's something that you continuously don't want to do, then obviously it's something you don't want to do. And that maybe it shouldn't be put into that program, and that you need to readjust it and unbreak that habit. Instead of trying to create it, you want to unbreak whatever that is holding you back instead of not moving you forward. Because I do the same thing. I'm going to do this, and this, and I have my checklist or whatever. I'm now to the point where if I don't finish these items, I won't leave now. I won't leave the office unless I finish the items that we said we were going to do. And the reason being, or I touched it, or I started it, or I did something because I found that I give myself too many excuses or too many outs to not do it versus to do it. So my unbreaking the habit is I wrote it down, so therefore it was important at the time, and therefore I have to take care of it and do it. You like it or lump it. It's just, you got to just do it.
I have something that kind of goes along with the book, but it's from a goal planning session I did at the beginning of the year that was through our realtor organization offered it to us. And it was on goal setting. And this goes along with what Michelle was saying, because that is like what you were saying, I'll come up with this grand plan of something and I'll say I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then I'll start doing it, and then I realize I'm not doing it, and it's because I don't like it, or I didn't, it's not really what I wanted to do anyway. And at this goal planning session, the coach said, because a lot of times we don't really have goals, we have like these grand visions, and it's not the same thing as a goal. So for instance, you can say, my goal is to start a podcast, and he says a lot of people will come up with that's like a grand vision, start a podcast. So he said, but your goal would maybe be like, I'm going to record one season of a podcast and then come up with all of the tasks to record one season. And he said for many people, they would benefit if the first action item was research what's involved in a podcast. He said, because then until you like, once you realize what's involved with the podcast, you might be like, oh, that's not really actually what I want to do. Whereas too many other people put the tasks on their list, and then they're like, yeah, I quit, but he's like, because you never really wanted to do it in the first place. So it was like, you have a vision. What's the goal from the vision? What's the tasks? And sometimes the first task should be research what's involved with meeting this goal. So it kind of piggybacks off what Michelle was saying. So
I like it. Nice. Well, we're coming up on an hour. So this is, I'm excited because this is a podcast, and we've created a podcast, and I wasn't really sure what I was getting into or what we were getting into, but here we are. And thankfully we have Tyler on the back end who took care of some of this for us so that we didn't have to figure it out. But I want to wrap this episode up, and in closing, I don't know if there's anything in closing that anybody wants to share with regard to the book or your thought process or kind of what your next steps are.
Do I have a thought process? Well, like I said, I just really enjoyed this book. I think that the idea of redesigning your life to create things that actually aren't in line with what and who you are is extremely important. And it was very exciting to know that it's not as difficult as I make it to be. Like Amy said in the beginning, it's, she had said it's, what did you say, Amy? You said it's very simple. It's just this, and this. It's almost foolproof. It's literally almost foolproof. And we just get our own selves in the way. And I think that was really, really great. So I would highly encourage anybody to just pick up the book, listen to the book, and just listen to it all the way through, and then start thinking about what makes sense for you. So I'm excited. I've already started implementing things. Like I said, I'm excited to try different things. In your 2-minute rule, Nestor, is just try it little by little. If I could do 2 minutes every day, I mean, how bad is that? It's like doing, 50, is saying I'm going to do 1,000, what is it, 1,000 push-ups, Nestor? Is that it? 1,000 push-ups. Instead of I'm doing 1,000 push-ups, I'm going to do 2 a day, right? And just work my way up to, to that. That's much easier to actually do than trying to say I'm going to run the marathon tomorrow, right? So I'm excited. That's all I have to say.
Nice. So you would recommend the book?
I would recommend the book, yes.
And Amy?
I had one other thing that I also have been trying to implement, and it goes along with Michelle said it earlier. He said in the book, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. And new identities require new evidence. Decide the type of person you want to be. Prove it to yourself with small wins. Who is the type of person that could get the outcome I want? So I try to think about that, if, I don't know, for example, like if I woke up and I didn't feel like working out, I would say, well, I want to be an athlete. And so an athlete gets their butt out of bed and goes and does the workout in the morning. Or, I want to be a super agent like Nestor and Michelle. So the super agent is going to get the ice cream truck at the open house next time. So
I remember that part of the book you're talking. It resonates around the belief system and believing who you are, and asking that simple question. If you create the belief system of who you are, then you ask that simple question as, well, if I'm that person, what would that person actually do under these circumstances or this situation? I want to be a top agent. Okay, what does that look like, and what would that, under this current circumstance right now today, what would that agent do? Whoever it is that I'm trying to be like, or whatever that looks like. What would they do in the exercising? If I want to be a superstar athlete, or the superstar athlete that I chose, if they woke up this morning, what would be their game plan and what would they do? And then we're taking action on it. And we want to be careful with that, because when we create too much, the superstar agent, what would Michael Phelps do if he was swimming today? Physically, yes, I might have a heart attack. But the real question behind it is, would he get up? Would he go do the workout? And that's really what it's about. Would we take those steps forward in doing those things? So, yes.
I find it to be a very effective question when I think to ask myself it. Like, it's just, so I keep this by my planner, and I put a star next to that one to kind of remind myself because anytime I've been in a situation and that thought pops into my head, it's very effective in that moment. It's just a matter of remembering that. But so your new identity, I think he says something like every action or every behavior is a vote cast for the person.
Yeah.
I don't know, he had something,
Basically
but
your new identity and what you want to be. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sweet. So you would recommend the book as well?
I would, yes, very much recommend the book. I actually just did. I told Katie Lance, she posted something on Instagram, and I said, "Oh, this reminds me of Atomic Habits. Did you read it yet?" And she said, "I've been wanting to." And I said, "You should," because a lot of times when I was reading it, I thought that reminds me of her. So, especially done is better than perfect. So,
You know what? We might have to invite her on. Yeah, have a
Yes.
conversation with her, and I'll check and see. Have her on the book club. That would be awesome. I would definitely recommend the book as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Obviously, making some changes and things like that, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm also excited. Amy, what's our next book?
I have it written down in my planner, but my planner's over on the table. Wait, don't tell me. It's going to come to me. We're reading Your Friend's Book third,
Yes.
right? And the second book
You
is...
picked it.
Oh,
I know it had. I don't have it written down either in front of me. I just remember it had something to do with a monk.
Well, go get your planner for that.
Oh,
Peek.
think like a monk. Was
There
it?
we go. That was
Oh,
it. Yeah.
was it Think Like a Monk? Okay.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Amy, thank you. Michelle, thank you. To the audience, if you guys hung out with us for this last hour, greatly appreciated, and we would love to hear your thoughts and your insight on that, or insight on this. And I tell you what, I will throw it out there right now. I'll throw it out. If you made it to the end, then you'll understand this. You'll maybe benefit from this. Drop a comment that you made this to the end, and let me see. Type in Amy, Michelle, Nestor in the comment, and the first 5 people to do that, we will send you a copy of the book. I know, right? So don't help anybody out, guys. Let's see if they make it to the end. Yeah. Well, everybody else is sitting in there. Why the heck are they commenting this? That makes no sense. But get to the end of this podcast, and you put that in there. Put that in the comments, and the first 5 people that do that, we will send you a copy of the book. All right.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. Look forward to the next episode, and everybody have a fabulous week.
Bye.